night may be long and the dark may be deep, but the answers are there to be found. Whether it's the normal, the abnormal, or the paranormal, you're in the right place. Let's go beyond reality.
Welcome to the program, everyone. We're looking forward to a great... Oh, man, my hair. This is just out of control. I know. I should have done something about it a long time ago, but I haven't, and it's now just completely crazy. Let me fix it. Hang on. By fixing it, I just mean I need to get it out of my face. The rest of it I can live with for now anyway. So good to see everybody as you all file into chat and get ready for the program. We're going to be talking tonight with Christy Whitman. Christy is the author of a book that we're going to be talking about. The book is called The Desire Factor. And let's see, I have it right here. Looks nice cover. I got to read through it. Very interesting stuff. And Christy's going to talk about the ideas, the concepts that she outlines in that book. But I'm looking forward to the conversation with Christy. And but before we get there, I do want to. I'm sorry. I'm a little distracted here by the haircut thing. I do want to just kind of not remind people, but revisit, I guess is the word, that the Sunday night program that we did. I don't know if you caught it or not, but I had Britt Griffith on the program with me, and we did something that we had done during one of the weekday shows a while ago, where Britt and I both had some paranormal evidence. I grabbed some stuff off the internet that had been circulating around. Britt pulled some stuff off of investigations that he had done with ghost hunters, and we went through it, talked about it. We took some questions. We got some evidence submitted by some people in our chat room. That was cool. We got to take a look at that. And we had a really good time doing that. I'm curious as to what folks thought, because one of the things that we're looking at doing is more of that as well. Because there isn't enough on my plate, right? We've got the political show. We've got Booze, Brews, and Bros. We've got Beyond Reality. So what I need is one more show to do. But I really had a good time doing it, and I think there's a real value in looking at the evidence and chatting about things. And I know a lot of people in our chat room have investigations that they've done, and they have evidence and photographs or EVP or video or whatever that they've collected in investigations that we could have people submit. So we're looking at doing that a little bit more. And we're just trying to decide when. I think we're going to do another one Sunday night. We'll keep the Sunday night leftovers and right-overs program that we do on the Independence Gang. We'll keep that shorter like we did this week. And then we'll do another one of these paranormal examinations. And hopefully, maybe we can even, if I can set it up between now and then, maybe I can even establish a way for people to submit some evidence from our chat room and stuff in a more timely fashion, so we have a chance to process it and get it into the show more properly than we did last time, where we had to fumble around, try to grab it from Messenger or whatever we tried to do. It worked. It did. However, it was a little cumbersome and it was a little bit clumsy when we did it that way. Please subscribe to the channels, regardless of what show we're going to do on here. It's paranormal related on this particular channel. I'm talking about, of course, Beyond Reality. Please subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Also look for us on Twitch. We are live on Twitch as well. That is kind of our backup broadcast. And then also find the podcast version of the show. The podcast version of the show always amazes me at how well it does. And I appreciate all of our podcast listeners. There are many of you, and thank you so much for participating in the program in that fashion. I do appreciate it, and I hope you share it with people as well. But if you're a YouTube viewer, listener, if you subscribe to the podcast, you can always be sure to have a backup as well for the program, because all the programs are archived there. So we'll appreciate that. I don't think we've got anything else we need to cover. I think what we'll do is we'll jump into a break. We'll get our guest, Christy Whitman, on the line with us, and we will begin a conversation about her book called The Desire Factor. That's what we'll be talking about tonight on Beyond Reality. Looking very much forward to this conversation with Christy. We'll be right back. Hey, it's JV here. You know I've asked for your support in the past, and I'm going to do it again because it's really, really important. And there are a couple of ways you can support the show, and it's so inexpensive. Now, you can go to Patreon, and you can become a Patreon supporter, and we really, really encourage that. But there's also another way. If you look at the description of the podcast, if you're a podcast listener, and you scroll down to the bottom, there's a way to support the show directly through the podcast app. And it's only 99 cents a month. It's less than $1. You probably have that change in your couch right now. That $1 a month, less than $1, goes a long way in helping us produce this program, provide great interviews interviews for you during the course of the week. I thank you in advance because the support is so important to the program. By the way, visit my Facebook page. It's JVJ Paranormal. You'll find it rather easily on Facebook. Also find the Facebook for the show or page for the program, which is Beyond Reality Radio. Also very, very easy to find. Tonight we're talking with Christy Whitman. Christy is a New York Times best-selling author and a transformational leader. She's appeared on the Today Show, The Morning Show, the Hallmark Channel, and other places. Her work has been featured in numerous publications and magazines. She teaches the law of attraction, Energy Master, and personal development classes, as well as meditations and private sessions to help clients feel more aligned with the divine design of well-being, abundance, and success. She lives in Arizona. Welcome to the program, Christy. Great to have you on with us tonight. I appreciate you joining us.
Thank you for having me, JV.
I have to ask you, the Hallmark Channel, the only thing I'm familiar with the Hallmark Channel, and I have to admit, I tend to skip over it when I get near it because it seems to be Christmas movies 12 months a year, and it seems to be the same plot. Tell me you were not in one of those films, were you?
No, I was on the show. It's kind of like a talk show that they had on the network. Yeah.
Okay.
No, I was not in a Christmas movie.
Well, I can see how those films are very uplifting and very, inspiring for people. I know a lot of people love them. That's why they do it. So I wouldn't have thought that was a bad thing necessarily. I just thought it was a bit curious.
Oh, no. Yeah, no, that would have been fun to act in that way. But no, I was on the show talking about quantum success and when my book Quantum Success came out, and it was a great time, and it was a lot of fun. Yeah,
you have several books to your credit, obviously. We're going to talk about your most recent. I think it's the most recent, The Desire Factor. Is that the newest one? Yeah. So tell me about the books in general, though. When you started to write, what was your objective in writing all of the books, and as you release them one at a time?
Well, it's funny because I never set out to write a book. It wrote me. I was awoken at 1:05 in the morning. Actually, to even back up, I went to bed one night and I was meditating before I go to sleep. I do that every night. And I had this picture or this image it said Perfect Pictures by Christy Whitman. And I thought that's interesting. I'd never seen, I don't have a book. I've never desired to write a book, anything like that. So I went to bed at 1:05 in the morning and woke up with this voice that kept talking to me. And it was like giving me information on what I was struggling with at the time, which was having perfect pictures. When you're looking at things as, nothing's ever right, nothing's ever good enough, so you have to look for the things that are wrong in order to fix them, to try to make them perfect. That's what I was going through, and that's where my mindset was at the time. And so I woke up at 1:05 in the morning with this information just coming through, and I got up and just started writing, and my hand became independent of my own consciousness and just was writing faster than I could go. So that happened 7 nights in a row, and the book has 7 pages. So I got the book published and started speaking and started doing workshops in like spiritual bookstores and churches, and people started asking me to coach. So I started following that pathway of coaching, and along the way I would get woken up at like Quantum Success. I was on a cruise ship at 3 o'clock in the morning, grabbed pen and paper, went into the bathroom because it was the only place to go because my family was all sleeping, and just started again that process where the pen hit the paper and just started going and free flowing. And the Desire Factor is one of those as well, just completely downloads. So I'm never one to sit and go, people need to learn about this. Yeah. It just comes through.
I mean, that is an amazing phenomenon. I know as a musician myself, and I write music, sometimes the music comes to me that way. I'll wake up with a song running through my head that somehow I was inspired to wake up with. Where do you think that energy comes from?
Well, it's from the divine. It's us in our being able to be just a conduit for that information, whether it's a song or a painting or a book or something that's very creative. The divine in us loves to create, and it knows obviously its audience. It knows that it's not going to probably write a song through me. I'm just not. Never leaned in that direction. Could I? Of course. But it knows to give you songs or, some other songwriter or producer. With me, it's books. And so it comes from just that genius part that all of us have that many are resistant to. And a lot of times when we're in that sleeping state, we're in non-resistance, and that's where it can easily get our attention. And then we're so enamored by it that we go with it instead of resisting it.
I don't want to get into some weird territory here, but I need to ask you, when you talk about the divine in this respect, what are we talking about? Is this God?
Energy.
It's energy.
Yeah, God, all that, yeah, if you want to call it God, energy, all that is, creation, it's the thing, the life force that all of us have living inside of us that are, it's beating our hearts, it's breathing us, it's life. Is it what
has given us our soul?
It's different levels and dimensions. Our soul lives on a different dimension than that God self, but it's like energy comes down in different dimensions, and our soul lives on a certain dimension as we live in the third dimension.
When you let's move forward to talk a little bit about your new book, The Desire Factor. What does it mean to manifest your desires? How do you define that?
Well, it's every individual has desires, and a lot of people won't admit they have desires, but it could be a desire for more peace of mind. It could be a desire for something material. It could be a desire to eat, wanting to eat dinner. So we all have desires as a personality, and it's usually something that has a beginning and an end. The divine in us, that energy that wants to co-create with us, it's the one that gives us those desires to have us move and become more of who we are, to expand, to grow. And the personality gets to partner, and they, get to play along and have the house, or get the meal, or have the mental transformation. Whatever the desire is, nothing gets created until there's a desire. Nothing happens, nothing changes, nothing transforms unless there's that spark of desire. When that happens, then things get created. Magic happens.
One of the things you say in the description on the book is that the true gift is not in acquiring the desires. It is who we become when we allow our desires to move through us. What does that?
Yes.
What does that mean?
It means that when we have, when you have that moment of you get excited about something, you think of an idea and you go, oh my God, I'd love to do that. Like you feel that life force, you feel that passion, that excitement. That's life. Like that's energy moving through us. And as long as we don't talk ourselves out of it, like, well, who am I to do that? Or somebody else is already doing that, or I don't know how to do that. That's what most people do. But if we allow ourselves to be moved by the energy, then like we were talking about, writing the song, writing the book, doing something creative, that energy moves through us and creates.
Can the desire be more than just, trying to accomplish something per se, but can it be something more material? Is that too selfish?
Oh, I love that you're asking that question. This whole book and the whole journey of this book started because I wanted a purse in Venice. And so I talk about how the things in the material world, even though people would say, oh, that's selfish, or you shouldn't want that, or, a secret desire that everybody, most people have is more money, but you can't say that, right? Because that's bad, or that's selfish, or that's not right, or whatever. It's materialistic. But the fact is we're in a material world. As Madonna said, we are material. I was just going to say,
Madonna said that very well. I was just going to say that.
Yeah. So, we live in this 3D reality, which is material. We have formed things. We need to live in a house. So if you're going to live in a house, why not live in the one that you desire? Like for someone, it could be a small cabin in the woods, right? For somebody else, it could be a mansion on the mountain. For somebody else, it could be living in a high rise in a city. Wherever the home is, we get to all put our own desire and flair into it. But it's like, why would having a nice home to live be selfish and materialistic? The divine wants us to, live great. If you're going to drive a car, why don't you drive one that you actually desire to drive?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, and I've always kind of rebelled against this idea that wanting more for yourself and or your family is somehow selfish or somehow inappropriate. I think that we actually make society better if we all strive to be better ourselves. So I'm not sure I've ever bought into that, and I don't quite understand where it comes from. Another thing that you write in the book, it's on the dedication page. You thank the readers. You say that that they are involved in writing the book. They called this information into being, that this was a co-creative project. How did you view that? And how did your readers become part of this particular book for you?
Well, because I feel like the people that are going to read the book, they're calling this information forth. People are asking the question that this book answers the question too, and that it wouldn't become into being in the way that it does and be as inspired and everything that was written if it wasn't something that was drawn in by a collective that is wanting the information. And so I just feel that, and so that's why I wouldn't be creating it. Like a lot of my best programs that I do with coaching and things like that are clients that are asking those questions of, how could I heal this, or how could I change my relationship with money, or how can I become a coach, or these kind of questions. It was all called into being, and then it became because someone had a desire, like the readers.
Right. And in the introduction, you touch on that as well. You talk about desire, and you say each of us must make the choice to grant and this is the part I find very interesting, grant our desires permission to be. Does that imply that we're standing in the way of our own desires?
Yes. There's three things that happen with a desire. You either go, oh my gosh, I love it, and you flow with the desire, and you feel open, and you get excited, and you take whatever action, and you write the song, or you write the book, and you do whatever you want to because you just are still enthralled by the desire. Then there's those that receive a desire, and it's like the energy they don't do anything with it, and the energy just dissipates. It just, like the excitement they felt, it just starts to fade away. Then there's others that are excited by it, but then that's where all the limitations come in. Well, I don't know how to do that. Who am I to do that, right? Well, my parents never did that, or because my parents always had this, I can't do that. And there's all that limiting beliefs and imprints and, things that we were conditioned to think. And or we tried in our own life and we were going along and things didn't work out the way we wanted them to, so we felt disappointed. So we don't ever want to feel that disappointment again, because it's too painful. So I'm just not going to try. I'm just not going to have desires. I'm going to, I'm good the way I am. And it's a lie, because again, even if it's for a sandwich to eat, that's still a desire. If it's for, better health for your family, or that's still a desire. It's natural for us to desire.
So it's that fear of failure too that gets in our way.
Yeah.
Many, many times, regardless of the level of the desire.
Absolutely. We get the memory of not getting what we wanted the last time, and that part of us kind of pulls us back, saying, remember what happened the last time you stretched yourself or said you were going to do something, or, and it pulls us back from really stretching and wanting to have those greater desires.
In the opening chapter 1, you ask, how come some people seem to manifest so easily with great results while others struggle for years? And that's, there are a lot of people, I would observe friends of mine, things seem to come very, very easy for them when they want something. And then there are others that seem to struggle, don't have the same ability to make these things manifest. I find myself somewhere in the middle. Sometimes it seems to come easy, sometimes it doesn't. What's the difference between people?
Yeah, it's the mindset. It's all about energy, because we know now that from modern science, we know it from quantum physics, that everything is energy. And when we are attracting something and going with the flow, we're flowing with that energy. It's like it becomes easy. It's like the right place, the right time, doors open. It just feels like we're in the flow, whereas other people, they work really hard. It's not for lack of an effort, but they're working really hard, and yet the mindset, it isn't going with them. My dad is a perfect example. He retired when he was 85. He's 89 now. And he was one of the hardest working people I had ever met. And he'd work 6 days a week to provide. And yet he had a mindset. I believe in the universal laws, like law of attraction. He believed in Murphy's law. So he thought that things were all going to go bad. Right. He expected everything to go bad. He had a pretty negative lack mentality about how things were going to turn out and how the world is against him, and kind of that victim mentality. So he worked really, really hard, but his success did not come easy to him because he blocked it. He was not in alignment with the success that he was efforting to make. Whereas other people come into alignment thinking that, you know what, I got the divine on my side, or I got God on my side, or think good things will happen for me. And the effort that they take, it's like doors and windows open.
Yeah, so, I mean, what I'm hearing in part of this, too, is, that adage, the power of positive thinking, sounds like that plays a role here.
It absolutely does, because we create from our consciousness. So our consciousness is not just what we think, it's what we say, the words that we use. It's the perspective or the expectation that we hold. It's the emotions. Some of us are really good at stuffing our emotions, and so we don't feel ourselves. And that's part of our consciousness, part of how we create. And then, of course, the actions that we take. All those things are how we create our reality. And by positive thinking, you get positive outcome, because more positive things come back to you. The more negative the people focus on, the more negative things that happens. It's energetic momentum that literally creates our reality based on how we think and feel and speak and act.
If you're just joining us, we're talking tonight with Christy Whitman. Christy is a New York Times best-selling author and also a transformational leader and consultant. Her new book is The Desire Factor. That's what we're talking about tonight. You can find out more information about Christy at her website, ChristyWhitman.com. There's also a website for the book, TheDesireFactor.com. Christy, you may have touched on this a little bit already, but let's talk about the obstacles people put in front of themselves, whether knowingly, willingly, or just, unknowingly, that prevents them from actually proceeding on this path to being able to manifest a desire, regardless of what that desire is.
Yeah, so there's three main obstacles let's talk about, because the first one, we've been talking about it a little bit. It's us. We become the obstacle to that desire, thinking that we can't do it, or saying, oh, I can't, the language, like we just talked about all that, right? So our own consciousness thinking that we can't have something or shouldn't do something or talks ourselves out of it. We become our own obstacles many times, where we feel we're limited and we can't achieve what we want. And the second obstacle is other people. Right? We might be really excited about something and feel really good about something, but we could talk to our mother or our, spouse or our child or, somebody that may be like, well, aren't you too old to do that? Or, that's risky. Are you sure you want to take that risk? Are you too young to do that?
Right.
Isn't that too dangerous? And they talk us out, or they evoke this kind of obstacle in our way, kind of invoking doubt in ourselves. So they, a lot of times, will become an obstacle. Or if we're moving towards something, and say it's someone close to us and they are dead set against it, they could be an obstacle. And then the third way that we have obstacles is the how. Many times people don't know how to manifest what they want or to accomplish what they want. And that's really what the Desire Factor does. It shows you the how, step by step, in exact order, that whatever desire you want or that you feel, being called to create, you have the step-by-step formula of exactly how to do it.
I think it was Thomas Jefferson, and I think others have been credited with a quote similar, but I know Thomas Jefferson said something to the effect of, luck comes to those who work hard, or something along those ideas. That idea. That sounds also a little bit like what we're talking about here. If we want to substitute luck for the results of achieving your desire, it's really about working toward it, isn't it?
It is, and and here's the thing: is that we always think, oh, it's work hard is the formula for success. But we all know people that work really hard and they don't they're not guaranteed success.
That's true.
So yeah, so it's like if working hard was the solution, why are so many people struggling? It's not just about working hard. It's working with the confidence that what you're doing, you have purpose in it, you're passionate about it, you feel the full presence. You don't just call it in. You're engaged in whatever process you're doing, and that's where, instead of the perspective of work hard, it becomes work full. Be in the fullness of, putting your best foot forward, doing all things the best way you can for the purpose of, what you're contributing. And that gets so much better reward than the idea of working really hard and struggling.
But this is also a process that involves personal investment, I would imagine, based on what you're saying here. And let me just differentiate, and I want to be careful how I do this, but we've had folks on the program that talk about things like wishing and having things appear for you, or even some people have come on and talked about a form of witchcraft, if you will, spell casting that makes things happen for your benefit, whatever it happens to be. Those, I'm not sure what I think of those, but what I'm hearing you say here is this is a whole process by which you empower yourself to bring about the change that you're looking for.
Absolutely. And we need to take an active role in it because it's our consciousness that creates. It's not witchcraft. These are universal laws, just like we believe in and know about gravity. Now, JV, you and I would bet, did not fly off into outer space because we weren't talking about gravity. You know, gravity is still working, whether we're talking about it, whether we know about it or not. And that gravity has me sitting very firmly on the chair that I'm sitting in. I'm not going in outer space. I'm not flying at the top of my roof of my ceiling in my room. And yet universal laws like law of attraction and law of sufficiency and abundance, they exist because they govern our universe. So the universe is vibrational. You know, everything is energy. And if everything is energy and all energy has a vibration, what happens is as we send out that vibration in a thought, in a word, in an emotion, in an action, we get that vibration back to us. So as we're sending out thoughts of lack and limitation and not enoughness, we get more evidence of not enough in our reality. And same is true if we are looking at things as abundant. There is enough to go around, that you do have what it takes, that things are working out for you. That's what starts to literally materialize into your life by your relationships, by your projects, by your money, by all the different things that are symbols of that.
Yeah, and you also talk about the fact that when a desire manifests itself seemingly easily, it feels a bit miraculous, but this is not about a miracle.
No, this is literally about how we create our own reality. We get to choose by free will where we place our consciousness, and if we're focused on the abundance of our experience, that's what our life looks like. But if we're focused on the lack of it, that's what the evidence there is. You know, it reflects that too.
Yeah. Christy, how do we get around this evil connotation that desire comes with? Sometimes, you know, it sounds like greed. Sometimes it sounds like self-serving, whatever. How do we get around that?
Well, it's just an understanding that, you know, it's a misinterpretation because, you know, I always say this, JV, I think someone long before you and I were born said, let's just see how much we can mess them up. Let's agree that everybody needs this thing called money, for example. It's a medium of exchange. If someone wants to eat something, they have to earn the money to be able to go buy that apple and eat it. And yet, at the same time, the Bible says it's the love of money that's the root of all evil. So wait, we need this thing called money, but we're not supposed to love or appreciate it because then we're evil? And I think that causes a split between people. There's also other religions like the Buddhists say that desires are the root of all suffering. Desires are not the root of all suffering. It's having a desire and not thinking that you can have that desire that is suffering. So it's challenging. These are very old ways of thinking. And even before, it was never money is the root of all evil, for the love of money is the root of all evil. Before that version came, it was greed is the root of all evil. And so when you're focused on creating a desire and you're feeling that good energy coming through you, you're not being greedy. You're literally allowing life force through you, and you're creating, and we are extensions of creation. And it's different than being greedy or miserly or competition or competing or comparing or, you know, playing a victim or any of those. Yeah, those don't feel good, and they don't do any good to anybody around you. But when you're thriving in your life, you're literally more generous, you're more loving, you feel, you know, more creative, you feel the joy of life. It's a very different way of being.
Yeah, and again, it goes back to that concept that striving for more for yourself and or your family is somehow greed or self-serving. When in fact, I think if you're doing that without transgressing on other people, without stealing, without deceiving other people to get the money, without hurting other people to get ahead, I think as long as you're doing it from a perspective of legitimacy, I don't think it's a bad thing.
It's a good thing. It's a creative thing. It's a life-giving thing. That's what desires do.
And when we, as we circulate this universe of desires, we've talked a lot about, just in the last few questions, about money and success and work and all these things. But what about more intimate desires? And I don't mean that in an intimacy with another person. I mean, personal self-worth, the things that we find inside us.
Yes. Yeah, those are things that a lot of people, they desire to have more confidence. They desire to be more patient. They desire to have, like you're saying, more intimacy or more connection or more love. I work with a lot of clients where they just didn't know how to feel love, and so they've denied it from themselves. And to have this great desire with them to return to love or to know love, that's a desire. And so that's why to say, but desires are all bad. You can't, desires are a root of all evil. Really? Yeah. To feel good and expand and to feel connected to the divine, that's evil?
Yeah, it kind of seems like that's the point of being here, right? I mean, that's why we're here, to feel those things, to experience those things.
Exactly.
How did all this start coming to you? I mean, when did you start having these realizations and starting to develop these ideas where you could put them into practice to achieve better results for yourself and other people?
Yeah, so my life changed about 25 years ago when I found meditation, and my meditation teacher told me the things that absolutely changed my life. She said, "You create your own reality." And something in me just knew that to be true, something I couldn't explain. I'm like, it's true. I don't know how I know that. But then it was like, well, how? And she started saying to me that your thoughts are either repelling things from you or attracting things to you. And that's when I realized, wait a minute, my thoughts, I was so identified with my thoughts back then, I thought that everything I thought was true. And so as I listened and became the observer of my thoughts, I realized I was really in a mindset of lack where nothing was ever enough. I was complaining, I was judging, I was critical, constantly comparing myself, competing, and I wanted to know more about what this was about. And that became my healing journey 25 years ago, going from lack to abundance. And as I shifted and changed perspectives, my life started changing. And I started literally seeing, it almost seemed like magic before my eyes, but it was literally, now I understand, I was changing the energy, therefore the things I attracted changed. And so I just kept leaning in, wanting to learn more about energy and magnetism and manifesting and, how I create my own reality. And my own quest then, became something that turned into then sharing it with other people. And so I continue to teach and coach and share what I do and how I've applied things and misunderstood things and misunderstood things and put it into now, what's become the 7 essential laws and my life's work.
All right, so I've got to ask you about this meditation thing. I'm one of these people who I can't see myself meditating. I have trouble sitting still long enough to get my hair cut, let alone quieting my brain down and sitting in a quiet, self-reflective state. I know everybody can do it. I just have a real difficult time understanding it for myself. However, I've had so many folks come on this program, and when I ask them a question similar to what I just asked you, how it started for you, it often starts with meditation. What is it about meditation that seemingly is so magical?
Well, meditation, and by the way, there's so many different kinds of meditation, and when you go to meditate at first, to sit in a quiet room, with nothing, even music, is just so hard for the mind because our minds aren't trained to do that. Our minds are trained to cycle between the the past, the present, and the future. It's not trained to sit in silence. And so to do it at first, it's like kind of going to the gym the first time when you pick up a really big weight and then the next day you can't move your arms. It's painful. So doing different kind of meditations, like guided meditations, and different ones that are not requiring you just to sit in silence. You could do a meditation where you're using an affirmation and focusing on the affirmation and just feeling the energy and the truth of that affirmation. That's doing a meditation as well. But what it does is it literally connects us to a larger part of who we are. It allows for more union between the energy and the physical. And that's what it does. In many cases, it does slow down the mind, so there's less resistance and more opening.
My problem is anytime I sit and try to do something like meditation, the Macarena song starts going through my head, and I just can't sit there for very long. So,
do you get up and start doing the Macarena with the song in your head?
Yeah, involuntarily my arms start moving, and it's really embarrassing, so I try not to do it. Let's talk about the 7 principles. You have the chapters in the book are separated by the principles. Talk a little bit about those.
Yeah, so each of these principles are like having a lock, a combination lock, and each one needs to go in the exact order. So they literally are a step-by-step approach. One goes like dominoes, right? And so each one builds on the next. And what this has done is that because I bring through and channel the council, this book is written with the council. That's who I'm been, prescribing all these years. The wisdom was put it in this order because that's what helps the energy flow. It's all about the energy. So alignment is the first principle, where it's kind of like what I was talking about with my dad. No matter how many actions you take, if you're not in alignment mentally, emotionally, just in a complete energetic alignment with it, you're fighting against yourself, and you're having to spend a lot more action and effort because you're out of alignment. So that's the first one. And the principles are really, like the principle of alignment is really, we go deep into that, what that means. And then the next one is the principle of focus. We have these free will minds. We have free will to focus. And most people are focused on what they don't want, not on what they do want. And so we have to be able to really start to, it's almost like dial in the lens where we want to shoot the picture, where we want to place the camera, because we need the focus, and nobody else can do that for us. And we have the choice to focus on what we want. And then the next one is joyful expectancy, because a lot of times you might focus on what you want, but then you're expecting the worst to happen, or you're expecting not to succeed. And it's really having that joyful expectation that the desire that you have will manifest. And then it goes into, like, you're really getting into now the energy, the principle of having, where you become a vibrational match to it. Then the principle of loving, where you're loving the energy of it, because love is the most powerful energy in the universe. It's a creative manifestation energy. And then from there is surrender. And surrender is not giving up. Surrender is not, meaning like you don't think about it. You surrender any resistance about it. You surrender the energy of lack, for example, and stay in the energy of abundance. And then you take action. So any action that you get that's inspired action, you take action from that place. Now, all of those principles take just a few minutes to go through. Once you start learning them, you have the alignment, the focus, the joyful expectancy, all of it goes quickly once you understand each of the concepts and you know how to apply them.
At the end of each chapter, you have a series of what I think would be considered like reflective questions about what you just talked about, and then you have an energy mastery exercise. What's that?
The energy mastery exercise is a guided meditation. So, for example, when you get the book, I always laugh because the publisher likes to put all that in there, right? But if you're reading the energy mastery exercise, it's like, okay, close your eyes. Well, wait, I'm reading a book. How can I close my eyes and continue to read this mastery exercise? So I recorded them as well, and when you go to thedesirefactor.com, it shows you how to get the recordings of all those. But you could literally pop on the recording, and then it takes you through a guided meditation to help you implement what you just learned in that chapter.
I have a question that we just scrolled through the chat room that I wanted to ask. Steph asks, Have you ever felt like and I'm going to try to ask it as best I can because I don't quite understand it, but have you ever asked have you ever felt as though you've fallen backward to where you were before you started meditation?
No. I've never personally experienced that, and I haven't seen clients that have. No. I mean, I feel like that opening creates an opening that continues.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to see if that was answered for her. Okay. Tell me about your clients, though. When people contact you, what is it they're looking for? What type of consultation do you give them?
They're looking to, a lot of people come to me because they've tried a lot of things. They've gone to therapy, they've done the meditations, they've, done the online courses, they go to the rah-rah workshops, and they're still feeling like there's something more. There's something that's still holding them back from being really what they feel is being called to them. And when they start releasing the imprints, the pain points from whether it's childhood or adolescence or even adulthood, what these bushwhacking imprinted, jolting moments that life, happens sometimes. When we can release the energy of it, we then have more openness to feel good. We feel more peace and more harmony. And like I said, that all reflects. I've had people that have gotten out of really severe debt by just shifting their energy and their perspective. I've had people heal their bodies just from doing a session of energy work. I've had people, get promoted in their careers or have these amazing, creative ideas that then go into a business and that make a really great income from them. So I've been, coaching 20 years, and I've seen a lot of people attract their ideal partners, and I've had the pleasure of marrying them. So there's been a lot of really amazing experiences that people have.
Let's talk a little bit about how other people affect you in this process. We all have had the experience of whether it's a romantic partner, if it's a friend, maybe your parents, or even an employer that seems to have some type of way of affecting you negatively. And obviously it would affect what we're talking about today. How do you mitigate the effect people like that have on this process?
So here's the great thing about this. I have a perfect answer to that question. My mom and dad are very negative people, and they've been together 65 years. They have a very negative relationship. Being around them is stressful. It can be nerve-wracking. And during COVID, I was bringing them food. And this one particular day, I knocked on the door, and I'm holding the food, and my mom opens the door, literally screaming and yelling at my dad, and he's screaming and yelling at her. So I'm walking into what felt like a hornet's nest, and I was thinking to myself, I'm not going to be here long. I'm going to drop the food and run. I don't want to be in this energy. And so they kept going at it, bickering at each other, and I just kind of pulled myself. I sat down at the kitchen table and just observed this. Instead of judging them and letting them, that almost like that energy come into me, I started to allow myself to feel compassion that I grew up with parents that argued like this. And I started feeling the compassion for every moment that I couldn't just get up and go if I wanted to because I was living in the house. And I felt that compassion. And then I felt compassion for them because they supposedly love each other, and yet they yell at each other like this. And so now I'm feeling the energy of compassion. And then watching them, it became the feeling of gratitude. I'm so grateful for the relationship I've created with my husband, and that my boys get to grow up in it's not perfect, but a marriage and in the family where we get along and we're respectful of each other and we care about each other and we show that, right? So now I'm I'm changing the energy in the room because all of a sudden my mom and dad come and sit down and we start talking about funny moments and, funny family moments or beautiful memories or things that my kids have done. And I ended up sitting there with them for a couple of hours in just this place of appreciating and being gratitude and feeling the blessings of life. So I had a choice in that moment. I could have either been affected by them and their energy, but by bringing in, by cultivating that energy of compassion and then of gratitude for what I've created, it completely changed the energy in the house, and it changed the situation. So instead of focusing on what other people are doing to you and how they're affecting you, if you're connecting with energy, and that's what my work is really, and we talk about it in the Desire Factor, is connecting to the source of all that is, of all energy. And so I was in that moment being able to connect with that feeling of compassion, and then that brought me into a feeling of gratitude, going into a higher feeling of vibration instead of the lower level. I was able to influence instead of be influenced.
So once again, this comes down to you being in charge. You're the master of your direction here.
Yeah, we have to all be energy masters of our own consciousness, because we're the only thing we can control in this life is our consciousness. And we can't control anybody else's consciousness. Like, we cannot control what comes out of somebody else's mouth or what they're thinking or what they're feeling. But we can have influence on what we say or what we think or what we feel. And when we do that, when we change and choose to be in a higher vibration or in a more positive way, positive, empowered outlook of life, then our experience reflects that.
Once again, we're talking tonight with Christy Whitman. You can find more information about her work at ChristyWhitman.com. Her new book is called The Desire Factor. There's also a website for the book, thedesirefactor.com. Books, other books to her credit, Quantum Success and The Art of Having It All. Christy, I just have to ask this because I'm a political animal. How many times have people said, what was it like being the governor of New Jersey?
Well, I got to tell you, I was married before, and so my Whitman is from my first marriage, and so I never dealt with that before. But when I became Christy Whitman, I would get that from. I was a pharmaceutical rep at the time. Physicians would ask me all the time, I know that name. I've heard your name before. I'm like, oh, really? You know. And then if there's someone from New Jersey or New York, and they hear my name, they're like, oh yeah, I've met you before, or they think they know me.
Yeah, I have a common name too. My full name is James, so it's Jim Johnson, and there are a lot of Jim Johnsons around, and I'm often asked about things like that, which I find is funny because a lot of people don't know my face; they just see the name. So I sympathize with you for that. As you release this book, and as people start to understand this process, and they start to recognize what they can achieve by understanding the process, what does that do to society if we all start thinking this way and learning how to use these ideas to help ourselves?
We literally are living in a place where every person is kind and they're in abundance, because we're not having to compete with each other, because my source is my source, and because you're succeeding, it doesn't take away from me succeeding, and that we can all literally have what it is that we desire in life. I mean, we all will feel so much more joyful and more empowered and more loving and more kind. And, there won't be, like I said, that lack that pulls us into fear that leads into behaviors of being rude to each other and being nasty or trying to be competitive. It would be a very different world if people understood what desires are, and how to achieve them, and really what the relationship is that they have to develop is between them and them, has nothing to do with anybody else.
All right, shifting gears just a little bit here, although it is still quite related. What is the Divine Quantum Council?
So there are different energies, different multidimensionalities, if you will. Like our soul is on the fourth dimension and, beyond. And there are ascended masters, there are angels or guides that all of us have all around us all the time. And so who I've been channeling or scribing is the Divine Quantum Council. They're ascended masters. It sounds crazy, but it's high vibrational consciousness that comes through me, and that's what wrote the book. And that's a lot of times my consciousness will go out and their consciousness will come in to teach about energy mastery and how we can all thrive and feel good.
Believe me, it doesn't sound crazy to this audience at all. In fact, and seriously, we've talked about things like this a lot. But tell me a little bit more about the makeup of the council And, when you talk about, again, using that word divine, a lot of people automatically think God, and you use the word angels as well. So give us a clearer picture of who this council is and what their purpose is.
Yeah, so the council, it's not a number, and they're not individual consciousness like we are all each, you're JV, I'm Christy, we're all individual, separate. They're a collection. It's like a collection of just higher awareness and higher information, higher vibration that comes through me and teaches about energy mastery, because there's a lot of different channels out there, and there's a lot of different, people teaching different things and can teach people how to leave their bodies and, go into higher levels of energy dimensions and things like that. They're interested in helping each of us humans in a very practical way take very esoteric universal laws and learn how to literally become granular in how we apply this into our lives so that we're enjoying our lives. We're not, taking most of our time sitting in meditation so that we can leave our bodies. Because a lot of times meditation gets to that. People are in pain emotionally because they haven't process their energy of their emotions in a way that's intelligent, like using emotional intelligence, and yet they want to escape their reality, and they meditate. So that's even an escape. So how do we then be present, grounded in our bodies, connected to our divine self with our divine design of being in well-being and abundance and success and love, and be masterful of our experience? That's what they're here to teach.
And do you channel them in real time?
I do.
Wow.
Yeah.
And when you wrote the books, have they assisted you in writing all of the books, or just this particular one we're talking about tonight?
Yes, all of the books have been channeled with the council, and this one's a little bit more special in the sense that they were the ones channeling, but since we wrote this book, that I've been first person channeling them. So now I know who they are, and it's a much more intimate, personal connection in this book versus my other books, even though those were channeled by them. For me, it feels like a very different experience because there's a different connection. And not try to
take anything away from you, but do you channel these words flowing directly from them through you onto the page, or are they simply inspiring you to come up with the words and develop the actual content yourself?
Both and.
Okay.
Both. Mm-hmm.
And are these the ascended masters that make up the council?
They are, yeah. So they are a group of ascended masters. What has been communicated to me, that they are the highest level of energy and vibration of consciousness that is on the planet right now.
Did you find them, or did they find you?
Kind of found each other. It was interesting because the first book that I wrote 20 years ago, that's where they came to me and they were talking through me, and then when I put pen to paper, I was channeling them, and then I kept leaning in, and then all of a sudden I became a healer, an energy healer. And would just start, I remember on a call, it was before Zoom, we were on a teleconference call. I was in Montreal and this woman was in Seattle, and my hands went up, and I could feel like this energy felt like fiery hot in my hands, and I could see the silhouette of this woman, and she goes, "Did you just put your hands on my neck?" And I said, "Yeah, I did. I could see." And she was having neck pain that whole entire day, and then the neck pain went away. And then there would be times where they would say to me, "Tell this client this." They said something alarming one time. They said, "Tell this client she needs to go to a doctor and have her hips checked." And I'm like, "I am not telling her that." And they're like, "Tell her." Like, they were being really persistent. I'm like, "Okay, don't kill the messenger, but I'm hearing that you need to go to a doctor and check out your hips." She's like, "Why? I don't have any pain in my hips." I'm like, "I don't know. Don't kill the messenger. They're being persistent." She went the next week, found out she had cancer in her hips.
Oh, wow.
So I've learned to listen.
Yeah. Well, isn't that the problem for a lot of people? And I'll put myself right into that category. We close ourselves off and we just don't listen.
Yes. Yeah.
And, a lot of times we'll have mediums.
All of us do it.
Yeah, and we'll have mediums on the program that talk about, reaching loved ones on the other side. And they'll, like in unison, say that if we open our minds and our eyes and our ears and pay attention to the things going on around us, we're actually communicating with those loved ones all the time, or at least they're trying to communicate with us.
Right. Yeah. We need to quiet, and that's what, back to your question about meditation, that's what meditation helps us to be more open so that we can either, communicate with those that are on the other side or communicate with the God self or, feel the energy flowing. The things that are less tangible, that become more real when you slow down the mind and you start working with your energy. The non-physical becomes as real as the physical.
So maybe all along this has been my mom putting the Macarena song in my head as a joke. Maybe that's what's been happening this whole time. Christy,
I love it.
Christy, do you have any affiliation or do Reiki? One of our chatters asked the question.
No, I don't do Reiki. I've never been trained in Reiki per se. I just have always followed, the counsel and their guidance. And it's interesting because one of the first things that my meditation teacher asked me to do is she said, I want you to go learn basic meditation with this other woman. And I went there, and it was literally a healing course. And I could feel the energy through my palms. And when we were practicing on, different people in the class, they would turn around and look at me and go, "What is that?" Like I could feel that energy. It's just always been very powerful. And so it wasn't following Reiki or any other energetic modality. It was just doing what came natural, what I was guided to do through the counsel. And it's always just seemed to work well.
You have several books. Obviously, we're talking about the newest one tonight, but do you recommend people read them in any particular order?
No. I mean, all of them, like I have The Art of Having It All, which is, a great book for men, too, because it talks about universal concepts, but it's really about, there's this argument of how people don't tell men you can't have it all, but there's a very big debate about women having it all and what that even means. So that book is specific to that. Quantum Success is very specific to money and career. So it's really applying the 7 essential laws to that. The desire factor is literally everyone understanding that relationship that we have with desires, applying these 7 principles, not the 7 universal laws, the principles that go into flowing with a desire. And yet everything underneath is based on the 7 essential laws. So
let's break this down into a real personal experience here, if I can. If somebody is really struggling in life, they're having a really, really difficult time, and they're reaching out for this kind of self-discovery and this kind of help. Obviously, getting your book, the book's going to help them understand and follow a process by which they can start to discover these things. But what other advice would you give them?
The first thing I always get asked is, how do you apply this information? And I would say, watch your words, because words in our language are part of our consciousness, and so much so that I have people asking me, like, what words? So I created a free program, and it's a 30-day video program. You can go to watchyourwords.com, and it tells you 3 things in a matter of 2 to 4 minutes per day. It's a video of me telling the word or phrase of the day, what to eliminate from your vocabulary, why, and what to say instead. So I'll give an example. During the pandemic, everybody was saying, I miss getting a pedicure. I miss seeing my friends. I miss going to dinner. I mean, everyone was saying, I miss. Whenever we say words like I miss, it pulls our energy down into lack, and we feel bad. And when we start to create these stories of, I miss going to dinner, oh my gosh, I'm being controlled, the pandemic, da-da-da, I can't, I don't have any free will and choice, so we feel bad. But when we change the wording from I miss to I look forward to, and that happened with me during the pandemic, I said to my husband, I miss going on a date with you. And I went, wait, no, that doesn't feel good. I'm looking forward to going on a date with you. And all the restaurants, we didn't know when they were going to open, all the restaurants are closed. And,
right.
And so I said to my husband, you know what? Since I look forward to going on a date with you, where would we want to go when the restaurants do open? And we started talking about all the different restaurants, the ones we enjoyed. Just having those conversations are uplifting. And then it was like, okay, we figured out the exact restaurant, and that got exciting. And it's like, who would we want to go with? We want to just go ourselves, or we want to go with a couple? Then it became this like big creation thing. And then for me, it was like, ooh, what am I going to wear? Like I got excited because started putting the outfit together. So it was a very creative conversation versus I miss going on a date. We can't go anywhere. We can't do anything. When's it going to be open? Life sucks. It's a very different energy field, and one word changed. Like, so I stopped saying I miss to I look forward to, And there's 30 words and phrases, and these are things that literally make a huge difference. They're subtle shifts, but they make a big difference. And the more you start to pay attention to the words that you say, then you start paying attention to the rest of your consciousness, your thoughts, your perspective, your emotions. So it all builds from your words.
You brought up the dirty word pandemic. Did any of this messaging from the Divine Quantum Council or anything that you were feeling, did any of it change either during the few months prior to what we realized was the pandemic, during the pandemic, or now that it seems to have started to subside?
No, it's been the same message that, we cannot control what's going out there. We can't control the government, who the president is going to do or what he's going to say or anything like that, the pandemic. And we can't control what our mother-in-law is going to say. One thing we can have influence over is our consciousness and our own energy mastery. And when we master our energy, even if, contrast happens and say someone says something or does something or there's a loss or, whatever those human experiences are that just don't feel good, we can master our own energy, release that energy, and then connect with the energy that we want. And for them, the only thing that their shift was is that a lot of people are going to awaken during this time because it's an amplification time. And there's some people that are going to get so amplified that they're going to have to turn and do some kind of work. Other people will stay unconscious, but it's still free will. And, while this amplification time is going on, meaning whatever is in there. So, for example, if someone's lonely, right? They feel lonely. They don't have a partner. They don't have anybody. And then now they're stuck in their house. That's going to amplify that loneliness.
Right.
Or someone's fearing money, right? And they're always freaked out and fearing money and worried about money, and now they have to work at home, and now they're afraid they're going to lose their job. So it amplified a lot that was already dormant, but it was already activated at the same time inside the human psyche.
By the way, if you have any clients or anybody that fears money, you can put them in touch with me. I will gladly take it off their hands for them. And keep it safe. Christy, we're out of time here. Let people know where they can get the books.
Yeah, you just go to thedesirefactor.com and it shows you all the different places you can get it.
And what if folks want to contact you with some type of private consultation?
You can go to ChristyWhitman.com.
Great. Thank you so much for your positive, uplifting message. We can use many more of those in these days, so I appreciate that. And I appreciate your time tonight, Christy.
Thank you so much, JV, for all that you do.
Beyond Reality Paranormal is hosted by J.V. Johnson and produced by Orion Palmer and Slick Eddie Edwards. Like us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please consider supporting the program either through your podcast platform, click on the link in the description, or on Patreon at Joha Productions. If you'd like to be a guest on Beyond Reality Paranormal or you have a recommendation for a guest, contact our producer, Slick Eddie Edwards. Eddie is spelled with a Y at slickeddieedwards@gmail.com.